Okay, everyone. It is 7:03 p.m. We have a quorum. Welcome. At this time, I am calling the November 18th, 2024 special town meeting to order. Please rise if you are able and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As the moderator will be unable to preside over the meeting this evening, and the deputies were not able to take over, I, as the town clerk, shall serve as the acting presiding officer of the meeting. Many of you in this room are familiar faces that have joined us for many years, and there are many in here joining us for the first time. Town meeting is the legislative body that keeps Hopkinton moving forward, but it is more than just any legislature. It's a gathering of neighbors with shared aim of charting the path forward for our community. We may not all agree on what that path is, but together we will sharpen our understanding of the issues that face our town, and we will all come out of this stronger for it. Please remember, all of the people in this room sharing concerns and opinions tonight are your neighbors, and they will continue to be your neighbors once we adjourn. Be civil and respectful, keep an open mind so that we may find solutions together and benefit our town for all those that live here. With that, I'm going to read the rules of the hall. No person shall speak unless recognized by the moderator. To be recognized, please rise to either of the microphones and wait to be recognized. If you are not able to rise, please raise your hand to be recognized and have a microphone brought to you. Speakers will be given 2 minutes to make their case. A timer will run over in the corner there where you will be able to see, and I will inform the speaker when their time has expired. Please stay civil, keeping your comments directed at the moderator and avoiding personal statements to ensure that we are discussing the issues rather than the people. Debate between attendees will be considered out of order. Be respectful of other speakers with opposing viewpoints. Please no clapping, booing, or cheering. We ask that you only present arguments that have not already been made to try and save us all some time. We will prioritize new speakers before someone who has already been recognized. Unless otherwise directed by the moderator, all votes are going to be conducted through the Meridia electronic voting devices that you will have received at check-in. If you're trying to make sure that yours is working, if you look at the screen on it, you're going to see there's a green button on your device that says 1A next to the yes. That is how you will vote yes on any of these issues. And you'll see right now, because there is no vote open, that it will just pop up with an A or a B if you press the red button for a no. When it is actually gone through, you will see that it will come up with a number and say okay, based on that exact same, a 1 for yes and a 2 for no. If there's any concern that your device isn't working, please bring it to the folks at the back of the room at the technology desk. We have a representative from the vendor who will be able to help, and then worst case, if we can't fix it, we'll swap it out. And then otherwise, if there's any other issues, then please just make sure you check over there with them and see if we can troubleshoot it first. As I will be presiding over the meeting, I will be asking my new assistant town clerk, William Lee, to record the minutes. I will now have Mr. Lee read the call and return of the warrant.
Greetings to the constables of the town of Hopkinton in the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You are hereby required to notify and warn all inhabitants of the town of Hopkinton qualified to vote in elections and in town affairs of the special town meeting warrant this day, Monday, November 18th, 2024. Hereof and fail not, make the due return of this warrant with your doings thereon to the clerk of said town of Hopkinton at the time and place aforesaid, given under our hands this 18th day of November, 2024.
Thank you, Will. I will make one more note regarding your remotes for the voting system. When you are leaving the hall, There is a bin outside for you to deposit your device in when you are done. If you do need to leave the hall just to use the restroom or anything like that, please make sure you keep your device with you. Do not hand it off to anybody else. Make sure that you always have it with you, and it will still be able to be reaching if you're outside of the room just in the hallway, but just make sure you keep it. And with that, I'll go ahead and recognize if there are any procedural motions before we get on to the first article. On my right. Doesn't sound like it's on. Try seeing if the switch is.
Hello.
There we go.
Darlene Hayes, 1/3 Road. I think the whole purpose of tonight's special town meeting was for Article 8, and I'd like to ask if we could move Article 8 to the first article tonight.
Okay, so with that, we have a motion on the floor to advance Article 8 to be the first under consideration. We have a second. Okay, with that, is there any discussion on the motion at hand? Seeing none, this is a simple majority vote. We're going to go ahead, and this will be our first trial run of using the clickers tonight. So this is just going to be a motion to advance Article 8 to the first article taken under consideration. A yes will mean that we are going to consider Article 8 before all others. A no will be that we will consider it in the regular order. And with that, can we open a poll? Okay, you're able to start voting. Okay, looks like it's slowing down, so make sure you get your vote cast. If there's any question, if you're concerned that it's not working, if you don't see the 1 in the OK on your screen, or the 2 in the OK on your screen, then that means you want to just check in with the back. If everyone's all good, then we're going to close the poll. So with that, oh, we're still going up. I'm going to give it another second, a couple seconds. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and close the poll, please. Okay, the motion is 208 to 107. The motion passes. We are going to consider Article 8 first. Yeah, you'll move it in the minutes. Is the planning board prepared to present on Article 8? And then IT is just going to get the slides up for you. Excellent, and you're going to have 8 minutes on the clock, and you're going to have that up on the timer. Yeah, so you can go ahead and make the motion first. Try hitting the switch on there. I don't think it's on.
Hello?
There we go.
All right. So on page 17, we moved the town meeting amend Chapter 210 zoning bylaws to insert the following text as new article entitled MBTA Communities Multifamily Overlay District, MCMOD, which is formerly known as the Preserved Downtown Walcott Valley version after Article 35. Neighborhood Mixed-Use District, and to amend the zoning map to include the MBTA Communities Multifamily Overlay District.
Okay, and then, all right, and then now your presentation, and we can go ahead with the, We don't need a second because the planning board's making the motion.
All right.
So we can go ahead with the clock, and you're ready to go.
All right, next slide, go to the agenda. So I'm going to quickly go through the agenda here. What is an MBTA Communities? What is the historical timeline of our activities? Our approach as a planning board? Why did we choose the land areas that are in the overlay district map? Frequently asked questions, and how is Hopkinton is impacted if non-compliant. Next slide. So Hopkinton, there's 4 types of towns as it relates to MBTA communities. We're considered an MBTA adjacent community, which means we need to comply with a law that says we need 50 acres of land designated as MBTA Communities Overlay Zoning District. Must allow for, by right, a minimum of 15 units per acre, and must allow for a total of 750 units across the town. And we can't have any restrictions on age restrictions or bedroom restrictions. Next slide. So what's not required? It's not required that the town is to build any of these units. It's not required that a developer builds any of these units to comply with the law. It's not required that the town provides any water or sewer infrastructure for any of these land areas that would be in a zoning overlay district map for MBTA communities. And it also is not required that we remove, destroy, or somehow rehabilitate or change in any way existing homes on specific land areas. Next slide. So here's the timeline. Here's the timeline. So in January of 2021, Governor Charlie Baker signed into law the MBTA Communities Overlay Law. So what's happened since then? So with our town staff and the planning board, we did a lot of preliminary investigation along with the zoning advisory committee. Between the zoning advisory committee and planning board, we've had over 20 public meetings. We've conducted local outreach, had many meetings to discuss ahead of town meeting. And you can just see on the timeline where we are. So it's leading up to our deadline for compliance, which is December 31st, 2024. Next slide. So this is the approach we took. We wanted to develop a plan where it's unlikely to be developed in the near term, straining town resources such as schools, police, fire, and the roadways. It would make sense if it was built in the long run to be in areas where there is road access. So if in the long run, we thought these were viable areas. And we also wanted to comply with the law. Next slide. So why did we take this approach? You can see here on the slide, in 22-23, the school population was estimated to be 4,173. Without MBTA community zoning overlay, by 2032, the school population is estimated to be 5,097. So we wanted to reduce the potential impact on everybody's taxes by taking this approach to pick land areas that we didn't think would be developed. In addition, next slide. In addition, over the past 2 decades, Hopkinton has, developers within the town of Hopkinton have added a lot of diversified homing inventory, houses and condos and apartments, and you can see to the extent here, where condos and apartments outnumber single-family homes from 2010 to 2020. Next slide. So here's the details of the land areas. The preserve is 22.9 acres, and it would accommodate 343 dwelling units. Downtown, 16.9 acres, and it would accommodate 217 units. And Walcott Valley, 14.8 acres, and accommodate 222 units for a total land area of 54.6 acres and 782 units. You may ask why wasn't it 50 on, exactly 50 or exactly 750 units? It's all dependent on the parcels, land areas that are chosen. That's why it's not exactly 50 and not exactly 750. Next slide. So these are just zoomed in visuals of the land areas proposed. Next slide. So why did we pick these land areas? Why did we pick the preserve? Why did we pick Walcott Valley? Why did we pick downtown? So as a board, we don't think it's financially viable for a developer to buy all the condos in the preserve or the Walcott Valley, to raise them or fundamentally level them and redevelop those land areas. We think it's too expensive for a developer to do that. According to people we've surveyed, and we reached out to Roy McDowell of Legacy Farms, and he said developers don't want to pay more than $25K per unit for land costs to build multifamily homes. We also believe residents in these communities do not want to, they like where they live and they don't want to sell their condos. Another reason we selected these areas. We chose the downtown area because it can already be developed to this density of housing. The planning board voted in support of this proposal, 8 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 1 abstention. Next slide. So these are fundamentally the financial projections of what we think it would cost, being land costs, to build one dwelling unit in the MBTA communities for the Walcott Valley Preserve. So Walcott Valley, we think would be about $191,000 in land area costs per unit. And for Walcott Valley, we think it will be about $119,000 for the land per dwelling unit in the preserve. Next slide. So I'm going to go through a bunch of frequently asked questions, try to help the audience so they don't get asked up at the microphone. So were other neighborhoods considered? Yes. Over the 20-plus planning board meetings, many other neighborhoods were considered. We looked at Windsor Apartments behind 110 Grill. We looked at Legacy Farms Apartments. Both had obstacles because of the permits they were built under. One thing that is, so we considered also many other land areas over the 20-plus meetings, and for various reasons, and we can get into those during the public comment section, why we decided these were the best land areas. And so just another question, will my property...
Mr. Benson, if you could just wrap up, please.
Sure, just 1 minute extra, please.
I'll throw 30 seconds on the clock for you.
All right. Will my property in the zoning overlay district increase or decrease? So in general, land areas that are zoned for more uses is more valuable. Next slide. So one question that came up during our many meetings is, will land be taken by eminent domain? And here's our Senate president in the state of Massachusetts says nowhere in the law does it accommodate for land to be taken by eminent domain to fulfill the MBTA Communities Act. Next slide. So the town of Milton had to comply by December 31st, 2023, and they did not, so they're in violation. And so and they're being sued by the Attorney General of Massachusetts. And should we wait for the outcome of that lawsuit? So the answer here is probably no, because of the specific type of lawsuit being brought. And last slide. So why it's important to pass, or why it's important to pass before December 31st. The Attorney General said she would sue any city and town that's non-compliant, and we will be subject to being withheld 13 state grant programs and any other grant program the town is eligible for that requires that we basically meet the objective of complying with every Massachusetts state law. So that's the presentation. I appreciate everybody's time, and happy to answer any and all questions.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. So we have, sir, you need a microphone? On my right. Yeah, just go ahead, sir.
Yes, I'm Bill Hamilton. I'm a retired firefighter. Did 30 years in town. I've been retired 30 years.
Sir, could you just also say your address for the record?
18 McNeil Circle.
Thank you.
I also write Tales from a Townie, but that doesn't matter. I can't see how we can be, we're not on the track, so I don't know why this even applies to us. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I'm in my mid-80s. And we are being inundated by schools, by the regular builders already. And if this went through, I know you say it probably won't, but if this went through, we'd be out of town by taxes. We're on a fixed income. There was 3 plans. Carboni's might be somewhat reasonable because it's close to the tracks, but the other 2, the one in the center of town and the one that was on Elm Street, you'd need transportation to get to the transportation. So I don't see why we're doing this. I just want to spend the rest of my days here, and I don't want to get taxed out of Hopkins. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob, can you just give us a little bit on why these specific parts were picked, like, over some of the other ones, and then, and I think your other question was just, was it relating to any impact or anything? Like if...
Well, the main thing is the schools.
Yeah.
If there's some way, I had 2 kids that go through the schools here, and that was over 40 years ago. We've been paying for the schools ever since. If there was some way, if you get to be 80 or something, you didn't have to pay any on to the schools, it would really help some of us older people to stay here. When I started on the fire department, you had to be a town resident to be a police officer or a firefighter. Can't do that anymore.
So I'm just trying to make sure that we have an answer for your question. So is there just, Rob, if you can just quickly give us that, with these parcels, especially the downtown one, is there a reason that those ones were picked for this plan that the planning board endorsed?
So for everybody's benefit, I'll speak into the microphone. So I think the planning board's #1 goal was to put forward a plan that complies with the law, because that's what we're being asked to do. #2, the planning board has put forward together a plan that we don't think is going to raise taxes. So that is the objective of our plan. And specifically downtown district that is in this map can already be built to that level, that density of housing. So that's why it's there. And also the main driver for Walcott Valley is it's close to downtown, but we also don't think it's financially viable for a developer to buy all the condos. So we don't think it's going to be developed. So we don't think it's going to add more kids to the school system.
You don't think, but
Okay,
you don't
so
know.
hold on, we're not going to have any back and forth. I'm going to move on to the one on my left because we gave some time there. On my left, please. Can you just make sure your mic is turned on? And then just repeat your name and address for the record. There should be a switch right on the top there. Just pull it towards you. It's coming on. I can see the lights on at least. Oh, yeah, I think, try speaking in now.
Are we there yet?
There we go.
Okay. So a question, once the overlay district is approved, it sounded like Walcott Valley and the preserve have less dense requirements under the current zoning. If a developer acquires the land, are they allowed to develop at those lower densities, or are they required to develop at what's the new law overlay requires?
Mr. Benson, do you have an answer for that one?
So the MBTA communities, it doesn't require them to develop to that density. That is the maximum density that they could build to. It doesn't require them to build to that density.
So just to clarify, it gives them the right to, but
Yes.
if the prior zoning allows something less, they could choose to do that.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. On my right, please.
Yes, hi, Eric Whelan, 13 Forest Lane, the Preserve. Can I make a comment without a question?
Yep, of course, you can make a comment. Just make sure you make it towards me as the moderator.
That's fine. Okay, thank you. So I asked everyone here, why would you vote no? Okay. Our condos are privately owned. We all have home mortgages, just like a single-family home. We represent over 100 homeowners between the Preserve and Walcott, 100, okay? These residences are multi-generational. We have people here that have raised their families here. They're still here, going on second generation. Okay, why am I telling you this now? Because my question, and I think the planning board did an excellent job in their presentation. I understand where they're going with this. But when the state finds out that people at Walcott and people at the preserve are going to be there for 10, 20, 30, maybe 50 years, what is going to happen? And I get no guarantees from anyone, okay? You can guarantee me something, a politician can guarantee me something, but they're not going to guarantee it 10 years out, 20 years out, 50 years out. And this is my concern as a homeowner at the preserve. And I'm on the board, and I have to protect everyone's property.
Thank you very much. On my left.
Igor Rubinsin, 49 Forest Lane, Preserve. As a part of the demonstration, one of the slides had the expected cost for the developers. I would like to question those numbers a bit, if I may. Consider the hypothetical. The developer buys some of the houses in Preserve and say, I mean, a part of the Preserve community is that we have our own water and sewer system. We're not connected to the town's water. Let's suppose the developer doesn't pay for the maintenance. The Preserve community can sue him, of course, but by the point of time the whole thing goes through the court system, our water and sewer system would at this point be unreliable and ineffective. What happens to our real estate prices? They're going to go down, not up, that's for sure. I would like to know if the planning board has considered that kind of scenario, because that is actually what is happening in reality in Florida right now, which is where I picked up the idea. Thank you.
Is that something you have an answer for, Rob?
So I think the genesis of his question was that a developer could potentially buy condos within the preserve over time. So if a developer wanted to take that approach, buy condos over time.
My approach is, my concern here is that developer buys not all the condos at once, but actually forcibly drives the prices down. That's what I'm going at.
So the only way a condo developer could do that is they would need to get control. They would need to get control of the condo association board, which means I don't know what.
So we're not going to do the back and forth. I can see it's about to start. So I'm just going to ask real quickly. So just to clarify, is your question that somebody could, in theory, a developer could purchase some of the units and then whether it's not pay fees or something in order to potentially drive down the price? That's your concern?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I don't know if that's even something we have the ability to answer. I'm looking towards Brian on this one. Just flip it up and it should turn on. There you go. And then when it turns green, there you go.
Yeah, that's not something we're going to be able to answer. It's more a question of economics than it is law, really. But I think from the town's perspective, you know, we can't pretend that we can predict the future as to what is bought or what isn't bought. All we can tell you is that this would change the zoning from the town's perspective, which would allow somebody who otherwise had the underlying property rights to do these developments by right without a special permit. But, you know, presumably, although I don't know because I haven't done the analysis and I'm not your lawyer, there would be certain condo documents and other things that would restrict the ability of somebody in the free market to do that. But from the town's perspective, we can't tell you what might happen in those various scenarios, and we can't guarantee anything.
Thank you very much. On my right.
Jerry Kazanjian, 29 Elizabeth Road. Mr. Moderator, I have one comment and two quick questions. To the previous speaker's concerns, I don't think anything about adding these zoning, not requirements, but the ability for this denser housing. That doesn't change those concerns. That could help. That could happen now. Someone could come in and try to drive the property values down by neglecting them. But my two questions are, First, do we know how much or how many of those grant programs the town receives funding from a potential
And what's the second
downside?
question too? I just want to make sure we get all
Sure.
yours in, and then we'll answer
the
them.
second question is, the discussions about a developer coming in has been aimed at the properties, sounding as if it's the property as a whole. But is that a requirement in the law, or could a developer come in and buy, half of Walcott Valley and develop that, or half of the preserve? Is it all or nothing on these areas, or could it be a portion?
So to answer your first question, your last question first, so it's our understanding they would have to fundamentally buy the entirety of Walcott Valley and the preserve. And can you remind me of your first question?
Sure. The first question was, as a potential downside, if the town does not comply with the law, which I'm not necessarily advocating for, but I just want to know what the downside is. How much grant money is the town potentially losing? I know there would be legal expenses, fighting the state and all that, but
So it's hard to get to precise numbers, so we did as much research as we could. Over the past 10 years, so there's two parts to this. There's 13 named grant programs, but what we've seen with Milton is any grant program that has this line item in it of a requirement saying the receiver of the grant needs to comply with all of Massachusetts state's law, goes well beyond the 13 grant programs. So within the 13 grant programs, we calculated it's about $500,000 a year over the past decade, so about $500,000 over a 10-year stretch. But the other grant programs, we don't have the exact numbers of what that could impact.
okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. On my left.
Ken Weissman, 145 Ash Street. I tried to kind of retire from planning board activities, but the article as written is so bad that it'll harm the future of Hopkinton. So I plan to offer a series of amendments, ones that would fix it, but the first amendment will be to take no action, just to see if we want to sit around and try to make this thing work or not. If we vote that down, I've got an alternative within their bounds to propose, or we could actually pass what they wanted to, if that is. So the first test vote would be to take no action, and if you vote for the amendment, and then vote for that as the final article, then we're done with this article tonight. I have a hard time with the downtown operation. Adding traffic to the downtown and also behind Walcott just is not the right thing to do. I mean, we've got a bunch of residences down there. I think we're going to see with the Hopkinton drug redevelopment what 60 apartments does to that area. And I think town meeting would like to have an opportunity, once they really see what that is to maybe lessen the density downtown. There's very little parking as it is, and this proposal has 1.2, a maximum of 1.2 cars per unit, or 1.25, I'm sorry, let me get it right, but that's a maximum per unit. I know nobody, any couple that might be working together to afford this apartment only has 1.25 cars. So my amendment, Josh, is my amendment number 1, which is to take no action.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the article. This motion to amend into a motion of no action is a main motion that will require a simple majority. Do we have a second? Do we have any comments or questions on the motion to amend? Hold on just a moment, folks. I have a point of order. Whoever made the point of order, can you rise to the microphone so that we can... Mary Jo, go ahead.
Mary Jo Ondrick, 2 College Street. I'd like to ask if such an amendment is in order.
We're just double checking that now. Thank you very much for your point of order. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to vote on a motion to amend this to a no action vote. Everyone please get your devices ready, and we're going to go ahead and open a poll in the back. So just to be clear, a yes vote would change the motion as it is written to no action, effectively stopping this entire discussion. If you vote no on this, that would then continue it so that we consider the article as it's currently written.
Point of order.
So, point of order.
Amy Ritter's 54 Grove Street. Won't there be discussion on this motion before we vote?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Will there be discussion on this motion before we vote?
Yes, there will be discussion on the motion. Well, is there any further discussion on the motion? But I didn't see anyone rise for it. Okay, so before we, so let's not go to a vote just yet. So we're going to have some discussion. We're going to start. Did you have discussion on the motion for no action? No? Motion to amend to no action. So, Jamie, I'm going to have you come up first.
Jamie Ronka, 6 Blackthorn Circle. I serve as Vice Chair of School Committee, and I'm speaking as a private citizen. If we don't pass the full Article 8, or if we pass this motion, we will lose access to state grants. We're currently working on a connection to the MWRA for water. Burlington, Massachusetts received $3.5 million for a similar water utility connection. This would be all out of our own taxes. Losing access to the grants that support necessary functions of the town of Hopkinton will cause everyone's taxes to go up significantly. Taxes will also need to support the lawsuit that are guaranteed to occur if we vote no on the article or yes on the motion, which is a vote to not follow the law by December 31st. My question is, do we have any way of knowing how many grants we will lose if we were to vote yes on this motion, or how much our taxes will need to go up to absorb the loss of those grants?
Thank you very much. On my right. Again, this is just relating to the motion to amend. Are you on the motion to amend, or are you on the main article still?
I'm on the main article.
So if you want to hang out and wait for a minute, then if we come back to it, we'll be able to recognize you in there first.
Mark Selig, 7 Forest Lane. Thank you. I support the motion to take no action, and among the reasons I support the motion, it's because there was a major point of the timeline that the planning board failed to mention tonight in their presentation. And that point is that 5 months ago, this group, the town meeting, voted down their motion on the MBTA overlay. The motion proposed today on the MBTA is essentially the same motion that this group voted down 5 months ago. And so I support the motion to take no action, and partly to give the planning board more time to come back with a motion that the town can support. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, please, before we continue, I'm going to give one warning on this now. We're not clapping, and the purpose for not clapping is because you're discouraging other voters who might have opposing viewpoints from coming up and sharing. We want to hear from everyone and not make anyone feel intimidated to share with us here at town meeting. Thank you very much for showing respect to your neighbors by not clapping, booing, or cheering. Nicole, please.
Nicole Simpson, 16 Ledgestone Drive. I am not in support of the amendment for no action because it is clear from the state website that compliance is mandatory. If Hopkinton does not vote for this article, there will be a lawsuit, and I don't think that's a good use of our finances or our time. Nearby towns of Holliston, Medway, Natick, Southborough, and Westborough have already approved their plans, and other towns will be voting on it soon. I know that Hopkinton has experienced significant growth, and we all feel that strain on our community, but this plan will comply with the law and maintain access to state grants. It sets up another building option that will be available decades from now if that supermajority of condo owners agree to those areas, but otherwise there's no building that's going to take place. So ultimately it comes down to compliance with the law, and if we don't take action, then we're facing costly lawsuits.
Thank you. And before we go to any other speakers, I just want to remind everyone, right now we're just talking about a motion to amend. We're not actually talking about the main motion yet. So even if it passes, we still have time to actually talk about the merits of. It's just a case of let's decide whether or not we have anything else. Anyone else here on just the motion to amend? Okay, so let's come on up if we're... Go ahead.
Amy Ritterbusch, 54 Grove Street. I'm speaking against the motion to take no action. I think it's in the town's best financial...
So just a reminder, this is not on the motion to take no action. This is on the motion to amend.
Okay, so I recommend
We're currently...
I recommend voting against...
Can we just change the vote that's up there? Because this is just the vote to amend it to a no action vote that we're on right now. So just to remind everyone again, to be clear, we're not on the main motion of no action yet. We're currently still just discussing whether we want to amend the motion to then say no action instead of what the planning board has presented to us.
Okay, I'm standing against voting to amend the main motion. I think the planning board put together a very thoughtful presentation. It would be in our best interest to have a further discussion on that and have a clean vote, yes or no, on the main motion.
Thank you, Amy. On my left.
Caroline Liu, 18 Daniel Shays Road. I think the planning board needs to provide more information, so I support to amend to add the option of no action right now, because there are a lot of assumptions in the current proposal, like no developer will do it, or no new student will be added as a result. Those are all assumptions. Also, we don't know what type of attempt being made to negotiate with the state, or if there's, because this is a previous administration's law, what's the current state in the state level? What are they, how they are treating that? We need more information on that front too. Not just the state said this, we have to comply. We need all around information. I think we just need more time to get everything together. Thank you.
Thank you. On my right.
Yes, Mason Haber, 16 Hidden Brick Road. First, I have a question. There was a comment earlier that this was substantively the same plan as the one that was proposed in May. Is that the case?
So, Mr. Benson, can you just state whether or not this is substantively the same plan?
So we, as a planning board, we had the plan from our annual town meeting on our meeting agenda to vote in whether we were going to recommend it or not, or this plan. And the planning board voted not to recommend the plan from last town meeting with only 3 yes votes. This proposal, the planning board considered distinctly different, and it had 8 yes votes. So I would say from our perspective, it's considerably different.
All right, then one of my comments would be that clearly we don't have a common understanding of that fact yet, which means that we owe it to ourselves to arrive at that understanding by actually discussing this plan further. I would also say that there's too much at stake to cut discussion short, And even though this is a motion to amend, I understand that. It's not a motion to not take action, but it's clearly intended to close discussion as quickly as possible. And many people came here tonight to share their thoughts about this plan, and I think they all deserve a chance to speak and give their 2 cents. The last comment that I want to make is there have been a number of comments tonight that the town can't guarantee anything. Well, you know, whenever you make a change, there are going to be risks. The question is, are those risks realistic risks? Okay? That's what we're here to evaluate. You know, not whether there's any possibility that these unlikely to be developed plots are developed. Is that a realistic possibility? And the town has done its best to come up with a plan to make that as unrealistic as possible.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. On my left, on the amendment, motion to amend.
Andrew Demore, 28 Wood. I have a question. If we put this forward and amend to take no action, it essentially stops number 8. Is there enough time before the end of the year for something else to be put in front of the town, or does it essentially put us in default because we do not have time to actually have another meeting to discuss it?
Mr. Benson, do you have an answer for that? Brief one.
I would say this, if we don't come to a conclusion tonight, I would say there's no time for another town meeting before the end of the year.
So you're saying we would essentially be in default of this?
We would be out of compliance.
Thank you.
Thank you. On my right.
Thank you. Brian Johnson, 20 Burkdale Lane. I am speaking against the motion to amend. I believe this does require a discussion of the town. The motion to amend would effectively mean the next vote would have the same result, whether we vote for or against. I think we're playing procedural games to get around the original proposal before the town, and I think the original proposal deserves the follow-up discussion about the merits of what is before the town, not this amendment, which is playing a game to get around that. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, on my right.
Linda Chus, 11 School Street. At other town meetings, sometimes people will come up and call the vote when there's been enough discussion. I don't understand the difference between motion to amend, to not vote, or to whatever this is going to do, compared to calling the vote.
So it doesn't limit debate on it. It would then push us, if we were to vote to amend the motion, and then we'd go to a new main motion that would be no action. We would discuss the merits of that, and we'd be able to then decide whether or not we wanted to vote no action, or if that failed, to recommend new action, which could essentially bring us back to the same thing or to a new amended article. So it's an extra step in the process, but it's a slightly different step that has a few more bits for conversation, and that's what the difference is. But thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Anyone else on my right about the amendment? Okay, seeing none. Now we're going to go to a vote on the amendment. So just to be clear, on the amendment, voting yes changes the motion to be a no action motion, which we will then take under discussion. Voting no means that the motion will be kept the same and not be changed, and we will then take that under discussion as we were already. So please go ahead and vote now if you would. Okay, we're slowing down. So with that, we're going to go ahead and close the poll. Okay, so the motion fails 111 to 269. And with that, we are going to go back to discussion on the main motion itself as presented by the planning board. And then, sir, you have been very patient. Thank you. Please go ahead and start us off.
David Hawley, 28 East Street. I have questions regarding the fact of the financial part of it, and that's the fact that there's 750 units, and I'm sure out of that, 600 of them will have children. You're talking, when the superintendent of the school was here at the last meeting in May, she said it costs $13,000 plus to educate a child in Hopkinton. If there's 600 units and there's 2 kids, you're talking $16 million that we're going to have to pick up. That's what we're going to be paying for. We also have the Mass Water Resource Association, which we're going to have to be paying for. The other issue is, you talked about elders last time. I work with the elders. I've been working with the elders for 40 years. Elders are not going to stay in town. You're going to push them out of town. All they do is independent living, assisted living. They go to senior housing, and if they go to low rent housing, they go on a list. That's what they do. Hopkinton residents will not be going there. This is really a Trojan horse by the state for the right to shutter people. That's what it is. Vote no.
Thank you. On my left.
Jamie Bronca, 6 Blackthorn Circle. I serve as vice chair of the school committee, and I'm speaking as a private citizen. I had the statement before about the MWRA grant and all the other things that grants pay for that our taxes will have to go up to cover. My question that didn't get answered before, do we have any way to know how many grants we will lose, considering we wouldn't be complying with state law, or how much our taxes will go up per household to absorb the loss of those grants?
We don't have like exact numbers because it's every grant the town is eligible for and already has that requires the town to be in compliant with any Massachusetts general law. Like I said before, we know of the 13 named grants in the MBTA communities that it averages about $500K a year we've received in those grants. But beyond that, we don't know. It's going to be above and north of $500K, but we don't know the exact number. And how is that going to impact our taxes? The select board probably knows exactly, but I think our total budget is about $110 million. And so I don't know how to, across every residence, I can't do that math in my head. It's going to be some amount.
Because it would be more that's just what we definitely know, but that's not inclusive of every single grant that is currently providing financial support to the town of Hopkinton. And if all of just those get pulled, it's at least $500,000. And then if every other grant gets pulled, maybe something that's supporting building the schools, and then the taxpayers have to pay for all of it. Maybe the MWRA, at least $3.5 million if it's comparable to Burlington. I think that the arguments about not doing this saves us money are incorrect. Thank you.
Thank you. On my right, please.
Jeff Rowland, 14 Old Farm Road, but right now speaking as chair of the Sustainable Green Committee. The Sustainable Green Committee supports the MBTA Communities article for 4 key reasons: housing density, transit, finances, and environmental justice. On housing density, the most sustainable way to build to minimize environmental impacts is dense multifamily housing. Dense housing causes less tree loss, less water impact, less materials to build, and less energy to heat and cool per household. On transit, with limited available housing, people live further and further from their jobs. This sprawl increases travel distances, traffic, and carbon emissions. Denser housing close to public transit or commercial areas supports lower emission activities such as increased train or bus usage, biking, or walking. On finances, the grant money that we risk losing is important for addressing climate resilience and sustainability needs, and money spent on an inevitable lawsuit further detracts from those needs. On environmental justice, EJ communities are disproportionately impacted by both the housing crisis and the climate crisis. Some of what may be built per this zoning would be affordable, but all would be more attainable than most of the single-family homes typically built in Massachusetts. Due to updated building codes, these units would be more resilient, better insulated, have healthier air exchange, and lower costs for utilities compared to older, similar housing. This creates opportunities for people in a broader economic range to live in high-quality, sustainable housing. This article asks us to think globally but act locally. While these locations in Hopkinton are unlikely to be developed anytime soon, having this zoning in place statewide will enable future land choices that address the housing crisis in the most sustainable way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On my left.
Bill Minch, 16 Waybridge Lane, Indian Brook Townhomes. I recommend that we do not approve this article. Approval of this article would harm Hopkinton and increase our taxes. Adding multifamily housing will lead to the development of new apartments, resulting in impacts on our schools and taxes. I fear that this zoning law would alter the character of Hopkinton and would relinquish the town's zoning to the state. Based on my research this weekend, I've learned that the town of Millbury has joined 15 other communities that have rejected the proposed MBTA communities plans. Other towns in this category include Marblehead, Marshfield, and Wakefield. 2 towns, Milton and Holden, are currently not in compliance with this law. Let's join Millbury and the other communities in rejecting this proposed law and ask the Commonwealth's Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities to develop a better plan to increase affordable housing that would benefit the Commonwealth as a whole. Lastly, I do commend the Planning Board for making a valiant effort in handling the Commonwealth's multifamily zoning requirement for MBA communities by trying to comply with this law. Thank you.
Thank you. On my right.
Zachary Chastain, 32 Proctor Street. Trojan horse is a pretty good description for this. I'm torn because I do like the rail and the transit that's provided, but I'm often reminded of Marlboro's regret in having built many hotels in their town, and Deval Patrick used those hotels as transient housing. I see this as a bailout for the T and their spending and their aspirations to extend the rail to Springfield, which is a great thing, but I think they need to better manage the funds that they're provided. It's taken us 15 years to get the rail to Fall River, New Bedford. Perhaps we'll have it in 2025. But again, I think this is a Trojan horse. I would suggest to stand strong and not support it.
Thank you. On my left.
Nate Ekman, 44 Wood Street. I think the planning board has done a very good job of making sure that even if this does happen in the long run, which could be a good thing for the community, affordable housing in Massachusetts is a huge problem. And of course, we need to address that. We don't want to build it all right away. And I think the planning board has done a really nice job of trying to make sure that even if this does get built in the long run, it's not all going to come as a giant tidal wave that's going to overtake the town. One question I have is, if we vote no on this, is there a chance that the state, since we would then be in default against a state law, is there a chance that the state would come in and in fact draw a zoning overlay for us and impose that on the town where we get absolutely no chance to have an input on it? Is that a potential outcome?
My answer is that's a potential risk. I don't know if our town council has anything different.
So, I mean, I spoke a little bit with town council about this same question, and I'll let you answer it, but it does sound like it's very dependent on what happens in a court of law in that situation. I'll go ahead and defer to council, though.
Yeah, I'm going to apologize now because I'm going to give you the lawyerly answer that I don't really know. You know, the issue here, well, one of many issues that's being litigated, and I'll actually just pause with that. If anyone's interested in the court arguments that are going on, right now the Milton case is pending before the Supreme Judicial Court, which is our state Supreme Court. If you Google Supreme Judicial Court, they actually have on their webpage an oral arguments link, and they have an archive. So if anyone's interested in watching that, you can find it. They log them on YouTube. You don't have to just rely on the lawyers and looking at it. But you know, one of the many issues that's being argued in that case is not just whether you're in compliance or not, but if you're in non-compliance, what the remedy is. You know, Milton is arguing, and there's certainly a valid argument, that because the statute only says you lose certain grant funds, that the legislature meant that that was the only remedy. The Attorney General is taking the counter argument that no, we can go much further, that there is some precedent for a court coming in and ordering force changes. The case and situation that they're relying on is admittedly a little bit different. It had to do with the school calendar, the city of Boston essentially telling the state, no, we're not going to do that, and the court really just issuing an order about a school calendar, maybe not something as extensive as zoning. But the reality is that it seemed as at least some of the justices during the oral arguments were receptive to some more far-reaching remedies. Now, whether they would go so far as to enable a judge or potentially a special magistrate or somebody appointed by a court to order zoning, I just don't know. This is a fairly unique, unprecedented situation. Doing that would certainly trample on a number of other general laws, not to mention sort of the tradition of home rule and town meeting. But at the same time, you are in noncompliance with the law, and there is some judicial precedent for doing that. And we do see that sometimes in federal cases when it comes to voting rights and redrawing voting districts where judges do that. So at the end of the day, I can't really tell you what a court may do or not do. All I can say is it is a potential risk that as a remedy down the road, it's not going to be tomorrow, it's certainly probably not going to be right out of the gate in a lawsuit. My guess is it would take some time before that happened. But if the town did indeed continue to defy the state, then it is a potential that a judge or somebody else could order the town to do something and the town would have to comply. Sorry,
So-
that was a long answer, but I just want to make sure everyone understands the legal overlay.
Thank you, Brian. Does that help?
That does, thank you. And if I may, just to continue that thought, I think we have to do some balancing of risks here. And I know we've talked a lot about what ifs, and we don't know, and there's a lot of things that could happen in the future. But I think one of the things the planning board has really tried to address, we do know something. We know the cost of these, the condos that are there, so we can estimate what the cost would be to a developer. And they've really tried to make this something that's not going to happen right away and be a tsunami that overtakes the town. And I think some of the options that we've just been hearing about are potentially scarier to me in the future in terms of things that if the state were to put a zoning overlay and impose that on the town, they could do something that's very buildable right away. And so I do think that that could be a greater risk in the long run.
Thank you very much.
I'm for the article.
On my right.
Jerry Kazanjian, 29 Elizabeth Road. On the topic of town council's involvement, was the planning board's recommendation informed at all by any sort of opinion of council? I'm not asking you to share it, but just were you consulted, or was town council consulted regarding the potential legal risks and ramifications?
So I did not speak directly to the planning board. Obviously, they have to meet in open meetings, and there would not have been any form of exemption to the open meeting law for that. I have had conversations with town staff that would not have to be in an open meeting, but I have not spoken directly to the planning board, no.
Can I comment?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Go ahead, Brian, or go ahead.
So our process would be to ask our principal planner, John Gelsich, to ask for legal advice from our town councils, and that's how we got information back and forth.
Gotcha. Thank you. So I think the planning board has made really good lemonade out of the lemons that they've been presented by the state. I think that we have sister communities who are going to be fighting this battle. And look, the court is going to rule on this. And if it's struck down, okay, great. Then the zoning overlay district goes away. If the court upholds it, then great. The town voted something in and is able to comply. So I see it as relatively, in my opinion, the best path forward is to, unless we want to take the legal risk, the best path forward is to approve the plan, see how it rolls out in the courts, and then either way, we end up all right.
Thank you very much. On my left.
Hello, I'm Jessica Jack Miller, 111 Main Street. Just speaking as a comment through the moderator. I live in a high-density area in town on Main Street. I work in town, but I'm speaking now as a private citizen, but my work does inform my knowledge in the use of grant funds and how that funds us as a town and how that funds the things that we do in town and make the things that we do possible. We speak of fiscal responsibility as something that we have prided ourselves in and something that we have been so ardent about recently in town. I believe that we are unable to count the financial opportunities that we would lose for the grants that already support our schools, our library, our town departments, and other resources that our community currently uses and that we could use in the future. We are one terrible emergency away from needing so many grants that we may not now be able to use if we were not to move forward with this and would not be in compliance after the end of the year. Of course, we don't know because you can't guarantee anything. You can't count on if we'll need to use something, especially if we haven't used it in the past. We hope not to, but as something I learned in the Army is, hope is not a course of action. So fingers crossed, but once again, really, we can't count on that. We talk about fiscal responsibility, but yet we want to spend our money on a potentially needless lawsuit. We don't know how much that could cost, but lawsuits, guys, could be millions. Who knows? Just guessing. So I really urge us to really think about this when we place our votes. And I urge us also to really think about it and vote yes when we move forward to a vote at the end of the evening. So thank you.
Thank you. On my right.
Mason Haber, 16 Hidden Brick Road. I've been a resident of Hopkinton for almost 10 years. I think this is a beautiful community with great schools. I feel privileged to live here. I haven't participated in local governance to this point, but I have been involved in some advocacy on the state level for resolving the housing crisis. The particular issue I was an advocate on, the Affordable Homes Act, passed. But I know, and others that care about this issue know, that no amount of state money is going to make a difference in resolving our housing crisis if local communities aren't willing to participate in the solution. So I was upset to learn that in the spring, the town had chosen not to pass the zoning overlay to do its part and comply with the MBTA law, which is a modest effort to try to address the crisis. My understanding is that we were one of a relatively small number of communities to reject the plan. That didn't surprise me because the expectations of the law are pretty minimal. No one is mandating construction. Any development would have to go through a normal process of approvals and public hearings. By passing an MBTA plan, all we would be doing is making it possible at some point for more multifamily housing to be created in our town. It seems like the least we can do. I didn't want to presume that resistance to passing a plan was due to some form of NIMBYism, so I've been asking residents, leaders in the town, other towns, studying the issue, and I can say that I have a more complex appreciation for what's going on here now. I've concluded that maybe that might play a role in the objections of some, but the fears that people have are reasonable fears in terms of the types of outcomes. They're outcomes that are understandable, one would want to avoid. The question is, are they likely outcomes? And to the best of my ability to suss out these risks, it doesn't seem like some of the outcomes that people are afraid of are even remotely likely.
Thank you very much. That's your 2 minutes where you have to go on to the next person. On my left, do you have a question on the... Parker, did you want to go? Oh. Come on up.
Point of order, I actually already asked the question before, so if somebody needs to go ahead of me, then go ahead.
Sorry, what was the question?
It's not a question, it's a point of order. I already spoke before, so I don't know am I supposed to speak now, or should the other person who didn't speak yet?
So if you have a point of order, it's an interrupt, so you can go ahead and make your point of order.
Okay, thank you. What I wanted to note is that the question of the grants that are listed here, I believe the number mentioned was 500,000 a year, if memory serves me right.
So what's the point of order?
No, it's no point of order. Should I be speaking now or not?
So you're just asking if you can speak at this point?
Yes.
Because so you last, if I recall, you last spoke to the amendment. So yes, you can speak on this motion. Yes,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So on the subject of the grants, the number mentioned was 500,000. We have Article 6 to be discussed today, as a matter of fact, which is to rescind the total of 1,800,000 in authorized but unused debt. I mean, that's more than 3 times than what we're going to lose on grants right there, just to throw some numbers out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On my right.
I'm Linda Murray, 2 Bumps Lane. I know the planning board put a lot of effort into this overlay district, but it is immensely heavy on the downtown
Can you just get a little
area.
closer to the mic?
Linda Murray, 2 Bumps Lane. I appreciate the planning board's efforts on this, but it is so concentrated on the downtown area. I am also in the downtown area, and although my comment is it's not likely to be built, if it is built, it puts such an intense traffic burden on something that's already overburdened. Also, as far as $500,000 a year in grant money, 600 more kids is going to require another school be built, and that's going to be far more in taxes than $500,000 a year in grant money, or $3.5 million for the water resources. I don't see the math adding up over time for that. That's just, we're still paying for 3 schools, and we need to add another one already.
Did you have something to add with that, Rob?
So you commented on the schools and the cost of the schools.
We're still paying for schools.
No, in researching this and the impact of debt exclusions, the town has voted yes at town meetings over the past 10 years. Has been about $200 million in approving school projects and school-related projects over the past 10 years that all of us as taxpayers are paying. So that fed into the approach the planning board is put forward here.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear the last part.
That information and that reality has dictated the proposal we put forward of trying to put forward a proposal that complied, but also wouldn't have immediate impact of adding a lot of dwelling units in the near term.
Let's just make sure that we direct the comments up to me, Linda. Thank you.
Thank you. If we provide something that is paper-only compliant and not likely, is that likely to be accepted, is my other question.
Rob, do we have any idea of the possibility of this being accepted as in compliance?
So this term paper compliance is a media term, like newspapers, television. The proposal we put forward is compliant. It just means we don't think developers think it's financially viable to build on the preserve or Walcott Valley anytime soon. And so that helped feed into our decision of why those land areas were chosen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. On my left. Thank you very much. I'm going to recognize the point of order. Ken, I'm going to have you hold off for just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and go to my right.
Hi. Hi, Leslie Garber, 19 Forest Lane, the Preserve. My comment is you're asking the condos involved in this to rely on hope. This originally started out as 4 grants that they were going to take away. Now it's expanded.
Please make sure you keep talking into the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Now it's expanded to 13 and maybe more. The government has already, the governor's already started a committee to support the passing of this thing. We don't know if she's going to get more aggressive when she realizes that some of these are just paper compliance or not going to be built right away. They aren't affordable housing. They are market rate house. So it's not like going to solve a problem of affordable housing right away. And you can ask the 3 towns who they flooded for the Quabbin Reservoir, whether they relied on hope. Because, you know what, the state can ultimately do what they want with this. They still have that power. So she can override, she can put more measures in place, give money to push the development of these. We don't know that. And we felt like the planning board, who did a great job, could have picked non-private homes. And that's what we're all advocating for. Not against it, although I don't think this is a great law, but to pick non-private homes. That's what a lot of the surrounding towns did. They didn't pick neighborhoods. They picked Windsor Ridges. They picked other things that were already built but more industrial. not people's homes. And so that's what we're feeling right now. Thanks.
Rob, can you just clarify on where, if, just to answer the concerns of the speaker, were any areas like that looked at? Are they allowed to be looked at? I'm sure you can probably tell us a little bit more based on what the planning board's discussed.
So we looked at Windsor Ridge, and we looked at the apartment building within the Legacy Farms development. Both told us that we could not include those parcels. Specifically, Legacy Farms is in this Osmond district, which is all of Legacy Farms, open space mixed-use development. And it would have, so first off, to a first order, we were told we couldn't legally do it. But then if we somehow could legally do it, it would have allowed for the units in that apartment to be placed somewhere else within the open space mixed-use development. So it would have been basically creating twice as many homes. That apartment would have just been relocated somewhere else in the open space mixed-use development, and the MBTA communities would have been in its place, a project there. Windsor Ridge was built as a 40B, an unfriendly 40B, so we didn't have 10% of our housing be affordable housing at that time. So a developer came in and built Windsor Ridge behind 110 Grill, and because it was built as a 40B permitted project, we could not use that in this overlay, MBTA zoning overlay district. Is there other specifics?
Was Windsor Ridge definitely taken off the plate legally? Because Westboro used their Windsor Ridge.
So just, I'm going to just say, clarify, and then that'll be the end of yours because you had your time. But with that, it's because likely they had a different means of how their version of Windsor came into being. Ours was through a forced 40B versus theirs might have been through an optional development permit. Rob, can you just confirm, is that accurate?
I don't know how Westboro built their Windsor apartments, but yet ours was because it was a 40B project. We couldn't fundamentally create an MBTA overlay district on that property. Those, to be candid, those were two of the first properties we looked at because we felt they would have the minimalist impact. And we were basically advised legally we could not choose either one of those parcels.
Thank you. On my left.
Thank you. Matthew Vronkas, 6 Blackthorn Circle, member of the planning board, but speaking privately. So a couple of speakers have guessed at the number of students that this would bring in, so I wanted to talk about numbers there. The state average at this type of housing, if it were to actually be built, which we've picked ones that are unlikely to be built in the near future, is 29 students per 100 units. And I know that we've talked about how we didn't want to guess numbers because we've been wrong before. Legacy Farms, specifically, was much higher. But those are actually only their single-family units. If you look at their high-density apartments there, it's actually, according to the growth study in 2021, was a little under 20 students per 100 units. And actually right now it's about 19.2. And so if everything were to be leveled and built, which is very unlikely to happen for all the reasons that we've talked about, it would be 162 students subtracting any students that are currently there right now. This is a much lower amount than what's been suggested so far. Thank you.
Thank you. On my right.
Elise Mihailowski. I'm a member of the planning board, but I'm speaking as a private resident. I've heard some comments about the downtown area and increasing traffic if this were to be built, but I just would like to say downtown is already zoned for this density, so this overlay in the downtown area doesn't change anything. That's part of the reason why we picked that one spot. And also, to keep in mind all the grant programs that you see there and everything that we might need in the future, and our taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, on my right.
Zach Kosan, 8 Hazel Road. Mr. Moderator, I'd like to call the question.
Okay, so do we have a second? Okay, so we have a motion now to end debate on Article 8. So this will require a 2/3 majority. So you will be voting yes to end debate on Article 8. So with that, please go ahead and get your clickers ready, and we're going to go ahead and open the poll. Okay, folks, last chance to get it in. We're slowing down, it looks like. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and close the poll now. Okay, so the motion to end debate carries 372 to 40. So now we are going to go ahead directly to a vote on the main motion itself as presented by the planning board. So if we can go ahead and get the motion for Article 8 up. So now, same thing, we're going to vote yes in order to approve the motion as presented, no in order to reject the motion as presented. We can go ahead and open the poll now. Thank you. This number's like watching popcorn. You don't quite know when it's going to be ready. You just hit it on the microwave and you wait till it slows down. But at least now we know there's a magic number in there. Okay, and with that, folks, we are going to close the poll. And the motion passes, please hold applause. Motion passes 236 to 167. And with that, we're going to move on to Article 1. Before people start trying to clear out, I know there's a lot of people who this was their sole interest of the night, but I do beseech you to please stick around so that we can get through the rest of this very quickly. And with that, can we please have a motion for Article 1 from the... I will hear the point of order. So it is a zoning bylaw. I know what your question's going to be, Bruce. It is. It has actually a different rule with it. I think we might need to consult with council as to exactly what it is, but it does not require a 2/3 majority on this one. Brian, can you please elaborate for us quickly before we begin Article 1?
Yeah, the same statute that enacted the requirement also reduced the required vote quantum to a simple majority for this type of bylaw.
Thank you very much. And with that, do we have a motion for Article 1?
Yes.
Folks, if we're heading out, please try to keep quiet so that we can continue to get work done in here. Please, go ahead, Peter.
Good evening, Peter Mimo, 0 Sanctuary Lane, member of the Board of Assessors. As to Article 1, as a member of the Board of Assessors, we move that the town vote to reauthorize the provisions of an act authorizing the town of Hopkinton to establish a means-tested senior citizen property tax exemption, Chapter 234 of the Acts of 2018, for an additional 3-year interval beginning on August 22nd, 2024, as provided for by Section 6 of said Act.
Thank you. Does the Appropriations Committee have a recommendation?
The Appropriations Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Is there a presentation on this? No? Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the article? Okay, seeing none. Oh, okay, we have a question. Come on up.
Doris Schmidt, 49 Franklin Road. Is this written any different than in the last meeting?
Mr. Memo, can you speak to that?
This is a motion to reauthorize a statute that had been approved 3 years ago, and the way the act works is that every 3 years the town is called upon to reauthorize it.
Okay, so the town meeting that we were at the last time, and we talked about this?
So I think you're thinking of, at the last meeting, there was a discussion on a special act. This is actually a separate local option that just allows us to essentially offer tax breaks for seniors in the community.
Okay.
But, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Any of the things from the special act in this?
No, this is separate. The special act is one that we make on our own. This one is one that we're just reauthorizing. And it's essentially, Articles 1 through 3 are essentially ones that we would just have on the annual town meeting anyway, but we were already going to have this, so we might as well shorten our time in May, right?
Okay, and then we didn't add any of the things that were on it? Or, like, are we going to have another article that's going to say what we were proposing before?
So this one, we're just authorizing that the assessors are able to perform this service for residents who qualify. It's separate from that other one that we discussed. The last one is a special act that's still being worked on by the legislature.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Come right on up.
Jared Prey, 6 Singletary Way. Not to speak for or against, but do we have a sense of how much this costs and how much for the average taxpayer?
So
It's, I mean, you're asking us to pay for it. It seems a reasonable question.
sure. So let's take a look here. So looking at, for instance, looking at some of the information that was provided, I think, to the select board, I think, for instance, we had a number of exemptions that were paid for through the town, but then also the state also reimbursed us for a number of that amount as well. I think the total amount for fiscal year 2024, where there were 33 exemptions. And actually, I'm referring to the veterans. I want to withdraw that comment, actually. Do we have Renee here by any chance? No.
So what's that, Peter?
I want to withdraw that. That was actually I was referring to the veterans one, not to the senior one.
So hold on just a moment.
So there's about 30 families that would apply.
Okay.
It's about a penny per thousand for the average taxpayer. And our rate, so it's very, very small.
It is relatively small, I'm advised, as far as an actual amount.
We can't even estimate it. Just small.
So just to keep in mind for this, this is a tax credit that's looked at for seniors that is, I mean, it's means tested. So we're looking purely here at, folks who already qualify for other potential aid because of having, fixed incomes and high taxes. I mean, we're just talking about a few folks in the community that really are impacted by it. I know that just from seeing like the items from the assessors in the past over the years, this is really, it's a minimal impact. I think I heard Mary Jo say the same thing. I don't know if John Neese is still here, the principal assessor, but.
Nope.
So I guess my only point is fundamentally, I agree entirely with the idea. Just fundamentally, I think you just generally know where you're spending money. And, would like to know what the number is to vote yes on it. But again, fundamentally, I agree entirely with the point of the article.
Thank you very much. On my left.
I really hope I'm correct on this, but I believe this provision is funded by voluntary donations via tax bill that is given on paper. No? Am I wrong?
So no, this is not the one, this is not funded through the tax relief fund. This is
not a tax relief?
No.
Uh-huh.
It's a separate fund that does also deal with like a means tested process, but
it's not funded on voluntary basis.
It's not funded through that.
Apologize, but I do support that.
Thank you very much. On my left.
Sue Curries, 29 Forest Lane. I'm the chair of the Tax Relief Committee. Thank you, sir, for mentioning us. The programs are different. This is reauthorizing a program that we've had in town for the last 3 years. It's not incremental to something that we've never done before. The two programs are separate, but I do understand the nature of the person that qualifies for these types of property tax aid. It is significantly lower than you could ever imagine. And I urge you to vote to reauthorize this so that we can continue to support keeping seniors in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Again on my left.
Hi, Evan Stone, 34 Walcott Valley Drive. I am likely one of the youngest people in this room, so I will be paying taxes further into the future than the rest of you. And I'm thinking, since we all already pay for this, why not continue it? Because you're all going to be old eventually, and I'm going to be the one paying for it when you're old. And I'm sure you would like to be someone saving some money on that, because when you're an old person, you can't really work any physical labor anymore because you're getting old. You want to relax. You want to retire. And if you can't afford to be retired and you're working your whole life, what's the point? So I think we should absolutely continue doing this. And the question of cost is you're already paying for it. So let's continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. On my right.
Bill Hamilton again. I'm one of the old ones. Please continue it.
Thank you very much. Seeing no one else coming to speak on it, we're going to go ahead and go to a motion. I'm going to go ahead and actually give this a whirl on a voice vote. Just give it a try, you know? So with that, we're going to go ahead and if all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. And with that, the motion carries unanimously. And we're going to go ahead and move on to Article 2. And Article 2, do we have a motion from the Board of Assessors?
We do. On behalf of the Board of Assessors, we move that the town vote to accept Clause 22I to increase the amount of the tax exemption granted to veterans on their domiciles under Clause 22, Clause 22A, Clause 22B, Clause 22C, Clause 22E, and Clause 22F annually by a cost of living adjustment based on the Consumer Price Index.
Does the Appropriation Committee have a recommendation?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this motion? On my right.
Quick question, Jerry Kazanjian, 29 Elizabeth Road. Just wanted to make sure that Clause 22D is deliberately excluded, or if that was, just want to make sure it's not missing.
The clauses as they are written in the motion.
So then I think to answer your question, yes, it is intentionally excluded. Again, on my right.
Jared Prey, 6 Singletary Way. Exact same question, not for or against, but do we have a sense of what the annual cost of this program is?
So actually I have some information that might be helpful on that particular point. We note that for the last fiscal year 2024, there were 33 such exemptions and granted to veterans in a total amount of about $65,000, or an amount of $57,000 was reimbursed to the town of Hopkinton by the state. I would also note that if this exemption and also the next one that we're going to talk about, they're accepted, they should be taking effect in the next fiscal year in 2026. And the changes should be funded by our overlay account and will not affect the tax rate.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, seeing no one else, we're going to go ahead and try another voice vote on this one. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And it's unanimous and so carries. And now we're on to Article 3. Do we have a motion from the Board of Assessors?
We do. The Board of Assessors, we move that the town vote to accept Clause 22J to provide an additional exemption of 100% of the amount of the tax exemption granted to veterans on their domiciles under Clause 22, 22A, 22B, 22C, Clause 22E, and Clause 22F.
Do we have a recommendation from the Appropriations Committee?
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Do we have any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and move us to a voice vote again. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous, so carries. Now we are on to Article 4. Article 4 is to adopt local meals excise. Do we have a motion from the Planning Board? Select Board.
The Select Board, we move to accept General Laws, Chapter 64L, Section 2A, to impose a local meals excise and to direct the designation of such funds for purposes contained in a special act which may be considered at a future town meeting.
And we're going to go ahead, as we did with the past presentation, we're going to throw 8 minutes on the clock for you. And if you don't use it all, then all the better for it. So go ahead.
Perfect. And I'm going to invite a few members of the chamber that are residents to join me. This was brought up through a chamber meeting about a month or two ago. So if we go to the next slide, I'll just kind of jump into it. I think our friend over here mentioned we're all getting older. I don't think everyone wants to spend that in town meeting. So here he is. So what is it? We'll keep this very quick. So this is what it sounds like, an additional excise tax. I know people do not like hearing about additional taxes, but this one is being done with the intent of, really driving forward the future of Hopkinton, specifically economic development. So what that looks like is, an additional 0.75%, so less than 1% added on to your meals. So you go out to eat right now, your $100 in food gets charged the state 6.25%, so $106.25. This will bring that meal up to $107 even, and Hopkinton will actually be able to benefit from that 75 additional cents. It does not seem like much, but as we'll show in like these coming ones, it adds up over time. And it's not a new thing. As the slide shows, almost 3/4 of the state has adopted this tax, and a lot of neighboring towns. I'm not going to name all of them that are listed there, but if you've eaten in other towns surrounding Hopkinton, Ashland, Westboro, you've paid this tax already. You're going to continue paying it. It just goes to those other towns. So I think it's a great opportunity for Hopkinton to bring in some new tax revenue when we look at where we are from a budget standpoint. We'll go to the next slide, please. This just gives a snapshot. There is no exact way. We tried to figure out what exactly this would look like. The best thing to do was go comparable towns based off population. As you can see here, we even took out a few major outliers in towns that had an extremely high amount of revenue from this. But I think if you looked at towns in and around 19,000, you can see the average, 415,000. Is that something that we can count on? No. I tend to look towards more the conservative side of things. You'll see the low end is around 183 to 200,000. I think that's very realistic for what we're looking at here. And it can certainly fund some of the things we want to fund in economic development. Can we go to the next slide, please? I'm going to ask the chamber to jump in, introduce themselves, and speak about this a little bit. But really, the idea of economic development is making an investment. We've had a lot of issues over the last couple of years. I think South Street is not as busy as it used to be. The downtown quarter project took up, some business from downtown. We need to get back, and I think having someone dedicated and proactively looking at opportunities to drive economic development for Hopkinton will benefit everyone. Paul, would you like to jump in?
Thank you. My name is Paul Ostrander. I live at 10 Carlo Road. Speaking on behalf of the chamber, economic development has been agreed upon by the select board in years past through the growth study committee from 2021. The town of Ashland has a dedicated economic development officer that is specifically paid for through this program. So it's important to understand that tonight's vote would just be to implement this, and then at town meeting in May, we would then dedicate these funds or have a proposal to then have them dedicated to a full-time economic development officer. The benefit of that is that we're going to get to see probably the first quarter or so how many funds are taken in. Our property taxes make up roughly, I'll say 87% of the revenue generated from the town. 83, thank you, Mr. Clark. And anything we can do to get that closer to 80% is better, and having a dedicated economic development officer to do that is very important. Everyone talks about a more lively downtown, revitalizing South Street, Dell EMC buildings going vacant. These funds could be used for grants for incoming businesses, stay in town for 2 years, get $5,000, $10,000. So the ideas and things that can go behind these funds is great, and we do agree with Joe that, and the select board, that we think it's going to be a very conservative amount, hopefully 200,000 or more. But as you can see, you're paying it in other places you go to, and we're also going to be charging other people from other communities who come here to our great establishments to pay it. So they're going to help with this burden to help get some of these costs lower. So Thank you for the time, and we're very excited about the prospect of it.
Thank you, Paul. So he brought up a good point. I actually work for Dell EMC. We just mandated everyone back in the office 5 days a week. It doesn't seem like the biggest thing in the world, but it's thousands of people that are buying lunch at the cafeteria each day. We made sure like those companies in those cafeterias go into it. So, you know, as we look towards this, I think the 200,000 that we're all hoping for is plenty to proactively go drive development on South Street, downtown, more businesses. Again, the thing I like about it too, it's a new tax, which no one likes, but it's not hitting a necessity for everyday people. So please support us in voting this forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comments, questions on the article? On my right.
Sam Doktovich, 8 Erica Drive. I think we're putting the cart before the horse. You're asking us to propose a new tax, and we don't really know what we're going to use the money for. It would be like going into a restaurant and somebody says, here's your bill. Pay it. What did I order? Oh, we're not going to tell you until you pay the bill. So my recommendation, I really find it hard to vote. I'm all for economic development. I really find it hard to vote for a tax first and then where we're going to use the money second. So my recommendation would be rethink this and come back to town meeting with what you want to do with the economic development funds, and then have the tax be part of that. And then I would heartily vote yes. Right now, I have to vote no.
So before you go, I'm going to let you go and just say, I just want to say, Sam, just to keep in mind, what is being presented here would be a tax that until we did anything else, we would collect it, it would end up just going to the general fund until we created some special act to actually set that in motion, which is the other piece they were talking about. So I just wanted to clarify, but then I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Clark respond based on the work that he's done on this as well.
Yep, thank you. We actually did talk about that, delaying it until like town meeting. The big thing there was it takes, I think, what did we say, 6 to 9 months to get through the state from a legislation standpoint to kind of formally earmark it, which, you know, we'll lose out on 6 months of revenue from this. It doesn't seem like the biggest thing in the world, but we start, if this gets voted through, this goes into effect January 1st. So I figured let's get the tax there. It's not going to be used for other stuff. We can informally set it aside for economic development. And again, there's things we can do in the meantime, right? We already have someone that covers economic development. She does a great job. She wears a couple different hats. We could implement the new business grant right away with funds like this. So I appreciate the question. We certainly took that into mind.
Thank you. And on my left.
Philip Mason, 9 Clubhouse Lane. I'm just a little concerned about your estimate of 180 to 200,000 because I looked at the number of restaurants. I didn't count the businesses that have their own cafeterias. But I looked at these other towns that you put in the list here, and you based it upon population. I did a little quick research, and in the town, we have about a dozen restaurants. Dozen places, maybe 15 or so. These other towns have at least double or triple of them. And so that's why I'm concerned about your estimate about how much you're going to come in.
Yeah, and that's why we went with the low end, even like the 183,000. It's when you incorporate the businesses on South Street, the things that, and the list, we got the list, and I don't believe the list is in the backup slides, but it was a more extensive list of restaurants and businesses that this actually pulled from. So I appreciate it, and again, that's the one thing we can't commit to. We won't know until we put this into place and we get a quarter of revenue that the state can then report back. But I appreciate it.
Thank you. On my right.
Bill Morgan, 9 Indian Road. I'm wondering what the impact is if you've thought through.
Sorry, we couldn't hear you. Can you restate the address?
Bill Morgan, 9 Indian Road.
Thank you.
I'm wondering what the impact, if it's been considered, on the individual small business. Like, how is the tax going to be collected? Is it creating more paperwork for people to do?
So slightly, yeah. So the impact is not financially, it's, the time commitment. So right now, as you know, your excise tax gets reported to the state, right? This is a new line item. It'll go on the bottom of the bills the same way, get reported to the state in the same manner. So however you transfer those today, that same method will go through. It won't be a new one.
So the state will give the money back to Hopkinton?
Correct. It goes to the state through your normal means, and then we get refunded at the end of the quarter.
And the other question is the consideration, no, the customer pays it.
Correct.
But, you know, it's not really good for business to you know, have your bills going up. Most small restaurants are trying to keep their prices low, and the costs, you know, costs are going up in everything, food, everything. And I know it's only a small amount, but it is something.
Yep, nope, and we don't take that lightly at all. Again, I think the big thing that stood out to me was how many towns surrounding. Like, I know when we go to eat, we pay this all the time, right? I actually didn't know a couple months ago how often we paid this, and that just goes to different towns. So I don't think it's, and I have no way of proving if it's like persuaded people to not go to those restaurants anymore, but it's a great point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. On my left.
Andrew Demore, 28 Wood Street. What are the parameters of what's included of what will be taxed? For example, is it only in sit-down restaurants, or if I get a prepared meal from like supermarket, is that included also?
My understanding is like the prepared meals count. It's just not alcohol, it's meals.
Thank you. On my right.
Hi, Bob Winter from 56 Elm Street, and this sounds sort of backwards. You're asking us to fund the Chamber of Commerce. It sounds like the Chamber of Commerce should come up with the funds to do what you want to do.
So just to clarify, this is not money going to the Chamber of Commerce. This is money
No,
coming.
I understand that, but who's going to benefit? It's going to be businesses in town, and the Chamber of Commerce is basically made up of an organization of business people from town. So what you're doing is you're taking a meals tax from us, giving it to the Chamber of Commerce, basically, because they're going to be doing it for business development. It just sounds like Chamber of Commerce should be paying for the business development.
Yeah, I see your point. You know, we looked at it as the Chamber of Commerce is, you know, our partner in this. We have people that volunteer their time. They get together, they meet, they look at things like this. Really, I see this as truly a reinvestment in the town. So anyone that likes to go out and eat in town, you know, hopefully this turns into more restaurants down the road as opposed to going towards the chamber.
We look at it differently.
Yep, nope, and that's fair.
Thank you very much. On my left.
Doris Schmidt, 49 Franklin Road. I feel that we should wait till the next town meeting to talk about this. I feel like the businesses in town, the restaurants and everything, have been so hurt by the fact that we can't finish downtown and their businesses are already not doing well. I think it's just not in good faith to propose this now.
Okay. No, I appreciate
Okay.
that, Doris.
So seeing that there's no one else up to speak, we're going to go ahead and go to a clicker vote on this one. So if we can go ahead and get the vote prepared. A yes vote would pass the meals excise tax as presented. A no vote would keep it the same as it is now. And we can go ahead and vote now. Slowing down, but I'm glad to see so many people have stuck around. So we're going to go ahead and close the poll. And the motion passes 186 to 113. And now we're going to move on to Article 5, Transfer Care and Custody Control of Hughes Farm Parcels. Do we have a motion from the Select Board?
Yes, we move to transfer the care and custody and control of 3 Hughes Farm parcels to Open Space Preservation Commission, said parcels being located at 0 Hayden Row, map 24, lot 10, 192 Hayden Row, map 24, lot 9, and 0 Hayden Row, map 24, lot 10A. Now, this is land that already belongs to the town. We purchased it through community preservation funds a number of years ago, and it is supposed to be a town entity that would manage, we need a town entity to manage the property. And we need to do this before we go before the conservation, because this is going to be designated conservation open space. And that is why we have to put it under the Open Space Commission, so that the conservation restriction can be put on the property, and it will be granted to the town of Hopkinton through the Area Land Trust.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Do we have any questions or comments on Article 5? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and try a voice vote again on this one. All those in favor of the article as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous, and so carries. And we can move on to Article 6. Article 6, rescind authorized but unissued debt. Do we have a motion from the Appropriation Committee?
Yes, we do. Article 6, rescind authorized but unissued debt. We move the article as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Recommendations, Select Board.
Select Board recommends approval.
Appropriation Committee.
Appropriation Committee recommends.
Is there a presentation or anything for this?
I can talk to it.
Okay, if you want to speak to it briefly, and we'll go ahead and see what we can pull up.
Okay, this is just to rescind authorized debt, authorize an unissued debt for projects that are no longer necessary. So back, if you look at the dates, when you look at the article, going back to 2003, up to 2021, so we have $1.8 million in debt that was authorized. We voted at town meeting, but we didn't actually need the money. So this money was not borrowed, but it's on the books as debt, so it just lowers our liability. But there is no debt to it, but it's just a bookkeeping article, basically.
Any questions or comments on the article? When I see no questions or comments, that means we can try out a voice vote. So let's go ahead. We need a simple majority for this. So that is, we're going to go ahead. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? And it's unanimous, and so carries. Now we can move on to Article 7, Establish Board of Health Revolving Fund. Do we have a motion from the Appropriation Committee?
Yes, we do. Article 7, Establish Board of Health Revolving Fund. We move the motion as printed in the warrant articles and motions document.
Does the Select Board have a recommendation?
Okay, Select Board recommends approval.
Appropriations Committee.
Appropriation Committee recommends approval.
Thank you. Is there a presentation on the article?
I can talk to the article. So essentially, this is the Health Department. They're requesting a revolving fund. So what this does is that all fees and other things that are credited from the Health Department and permitting goes to a revolving fund. So that gives them the ability to use these funds to meet salaries for some nurses and other, this would be per diem nurses as necessary, and also some supply costs. And it's not to exceed $200,000. If the fund does exceed $200,000, then it returns to then the amount over goes to the general fund.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the article? I see some folks approaching the mic. Go ahead on my right.
Linda Kimball, 1 Davis Road. I'm also the vice chair of the Friends of the Hopkinton Seniors. On behalf of the Friends of the Seniors, I would like to express our appreciation for the extraordinary attention provided to the Hopkinton Seniors by our Board of Health and the Council on Aging Senior Services. Hopefully, you have been made aware recently through a presentation by the Board of Health at the Select Board meeting, as well as a Senior Center Community Needs Assessment held at the Senior Center. The population of seniors is currently 21% and expected to grow significantly by 2030. We have been led to believe that the Select Board would approve nursing staffing levels that would enable the department to continue the work of its vaccinations, chronic disease management and counseling, Narcan training, and occasional home visits for those seniors in need. once funding was secured for the remainder of this fiscal year. The Friends, in recognition of the need in our senior community that is in keeping with the Health Department's new strategic plan, have just gifted the Health Department the funds necessary to secure these nursing services for the remainder of the fiscal year. We believe that our current and future numbers of seniors will benefit immensely from a revived nursing presence in our community. In conclusion, we, the Friends of the Seniors, would ask that the nursing services be restored with the per diem nurses immediately. Additionally, the Friends would like to provide their voice of support behind Article 7, which will help the Health Department fund its nursing needs outside of town tax collection through a departmental revolving fund.
Thank you very much. Seeing no one else, we're going to go ahead and try a voice vote. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? And that is a clear majority in favor, and so carries. And with that, we are going to go ahead and entertain a motion to dissolve the special town meeting. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous and so carries. Thank you so much, everyone, for all your help this evening. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Whatever.